Belize's corals are under attack by a spreading disease.
It's bad. It kills corals so quickly. It's faster than any of the other diseases we've seen.
Stony coral tissue loss disease, or Sctld, is spreading across the Caribbean region, and Belize is being affected.
It's terrible. It's really bad. It's really awful. So it's been devastating for the entire Caribbean.
Sctld is highly infectious, affecting stony corals and causing rapid tissue loss and mortality. The disease typically starts when a susceptible coral comes into contact with the pathogen. Once a coral is infected, the disease progresses rapidly. A distinct white band of tissue loss appears on the coral's surface, usually near the base or on the edge of the colony. The tissue loss continues to spread, affecting more and more of the coral's surface. As the disease spreads, the coral's health deteriorates. The loss of tissue exposes the underlying skeletal structure, weakening the coral's structural integrity. The coral then becomes more susceptible to other infections, predators, and environmental stressors. According to the Atlantic and Gulf Rapid Reef Assessment AGRA program, the disease is believed to have originated in Miami, Florida in 2014. It began spreading as it ravaged reefs. Scientists began studying the disease to halt the spread and restore reefs, but as they did so, the disease traveled south to the Yucatan Peninsula and then to Belize. Its mode of transportation is still something not fully established.
Since the disease began by the port of Miami, there was a lot of interest in looking at ship tracks, and many of the other early locations when it spread from the Florida area were in major ports. So it looked like possibly ballast water or even the hulls of ships. They're saying even fish could be vectors, or cetaceans could be vectors moving the disease around.
And now the disease is killing over 90% of reefs in the region. It's infected more than 20 species. Colonies comprising corals that are hundreds of years old have been decimated. Scientists, conservation organizations, and government agencies have identified hotspots where the disease cannot be allowed to exist. These hotspots were identified within the Lighthouse Reef Atoll.
Approximately 4,000 coral colonies were assessed. Of that 4,000, approximately 16% showed signs of stony coral tissue loss disease, and then 11% of those showed 100% mortality due to the disease. After the rover diver surveys, treatment was done at our hotspots along the atoll. So those being closer to Half Moon Key Wall, and some areas around the Blue Hole, given that those are our highest tourist destinations.
But still bad news for Belize and the blue economy, which is defined by the United Nations as an economy that comprises a range of economic sectors and related policies that together determine whether the use of ocean resources is sustainable. And corals are crucial to the Great Barrier Reef, a priceless ocean resource directly linked to Belize's economy. Without corals, the reef dies, and if the reef dies, tourism and the livelihoods of more than tens of thousands of families who depend on such industries like tourism and fisheries will be significantly impacted.
The most important thing is that this government has identified itself that the value of our blue space. When we're talking about the blue space, we're talking about all the waters that is this country, the coast, that clearly that they highlight the value that the contribution it does in various aspects to the economy, and as such the establishment of the blue economy. So the gross domestic product is clearly tourism and the fishing industry are major in this. So with that is finding that equilibrium, the balance, the sustainable goals that we have is to make sure everybody is included, but that we have to preserve our waters for generations to come.
Victor Fox is a site coordinator for Fragments of Hope in Placencia. He has been at the forefront helping the corals battle the disease before Belize's entire reef system is affected. Fox and other experts supply a paste made up of a carrying agent called CoRX-base 2B and amoxicillin powder, an antibiotic. The paste stops the spread of the disease.
We put it in 60cc syringes, and if it's too small at the front, we cut off the front because we want at least a width of that when we're applying along the lesion of the coral. And with stony coral tissue loss, it's also getting white, but you can see it's dying behind it. the algae growth is faster, and also where the live tissue is still by the lesions, the tissue is coming off of the coral itself.
Over time, we're hoping to be able to ID some of the survivors from this disease and then start propagating those. And even if we can't answer the question of why or what made them resist or survive the disease, we can at least identify the survivors and then start working to repopulate reefs after that.
So protect the builders of the reef by spreading the word about Sctld and its devastating impacts on coral reefs. Share information with your friends, family, and community through social media, local events, and educational platforms. The more people who understand the issue, the greater the support for action. Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.